What's up guys, welcome to the Mayhem. In this series, I'm going to show you guys how to make a Twitter bot. This series is going to be broken into 3 different videos. The first video is going to cover the basics of getting a bot up and running. This bot will be able to retweet, favorite, and also post new tweets. In the second video, I'm going to show you guys how you can use Firebase to make the bot interact with his followers. And then lastly, we're going to deploy the bot to Heroku. So we're going to go from nothing to a completely functional deployed bot. We're going to call this lovely little creation of ours Twat. You know, because it's a Twitter bot. First thing you want to do is head over to apps.twitter.com and click create a new app. After that, you just got to fill out some basic information, the name and the description of the bot, and a website. The website is not really important, just put something in there. So as you can see, I'm trying to create Twat here, and oh my god, the name is taken. What? Alright, so we're going to change the name to the best Twat. Apparently Twat is taken, but we're going to make a better version of Twat. And the description is going to be the best Twat of all time. After that, just click create your Twitter application. And just like that, we have now successfully created a Twitter application. The next thing we want to do is modify the permissions and give us access to read, write, and also direct messages. And that is all that we need for now. For now, we're only going to have 2 dependencies in this project. The first dependency is going to be Twit, which is a Twitter API client for Node.js. Twit makes it really easy to communicate with Twitter's REST and streaming API. The second dependency that we're going to have is a module called .env. This module allows us to keep our environment separate from the code. And the way we're going to use this is that we're going to have a separate file which will contain all of our secret Twitter API keys. And we won't be checking in that file to GitHub because, you know, we don't want the GitHub community to be able to access all of that information. So this module is going to make it really easy for us to keep that separate but easily accessible from within our code. I've already created a new folder for this project, and I'm going to initialize a new Git repository in it and create a package.json file using npm init. The defaults are good enough for now. The next thing that I want to do is create 4 new files in this project: .env, .gitignore, config.js, and index.js. So let's open up this project in our favorite text editor, which happens to be Atom for me right now. And the first thing that I'm going to do is change the contents of the gitignore file and make sure that .env is included in there. We do not want to check in the .env file because that's where we're going to save all of our secret API keys. What I want to do is install the dependencies. So we're going to do that by using npm install --save twit and .env. So while both of these dependencies are getting installed, let's set up our .env file with the API keys that we're going to need in order to be able to communicate with Twitter. So the first variable that we're going to create here is consumer_key. And after that, we're going to head over to apps.twitter.com and go to the keys and tokens tab and copy the consumer key from there. And then we're going to create a consumer_secret and copy the consumer secret from Twitter. And we're going to repeat that for access token, which will be saved as access_token, and then access token secret that we're going to save as access_token_secret. So these are all of our API keys that we don't want to expose to the people using our project. So now let's head over to config.js and require.env, and we're going to call the load method on it. And after that, we're just going to export an object with all of those API keys. So now let's test that whatever we have done so far actually works. So we're going to head over to index.js file and require the config file, and then just console log the result of that. The last thing that we got to do before testing this is head over to our package.json file and create a new start tag inside script. And just have the value node index.js there. Now we're going to head over to our terminal and run npm start, and it should log our keys there, and there you go, it does. After all of that setup, we're finally ready to start writing our bot. The first thing that we're going to do is require the Twit module and then create a new instance of it. I'm going to call that T and just pass in the config to the constructor. The first thing that our bot needs to be able to do is hit up the Twitter API and perform a search. So I'm going to look at the Twit documentation to see how searching works. So it looks like it's a simple GET requests against this API endpoint called search/tweets, and then you can pass in an object with the query and some other parameters to restrict the data. All right, so we're going to do that. I'm going to create a new function called search Twitter, and then in here I'm going to create a params object, not an array, object, and we're going to query for, I don't know, JavaScript. Let's do that because it's fun. And then we're going to restrict our search to a count of 100. Sure, why not? We don't want too much data coming back. And what else? Now you can head over to dev.twitter and find more parameters that can be passed into search. So there's this thing called result type, which allows us to filter results based on the most recent tweets, popular tweets, or a mixture of both. So I'm going to specify that as well. And I'm going to pull in recent and popular. Let me just look that up. I think I did that wrong. Yeah, it's supposed to be result_type and then an array. So we're going to say, we're going to grab all the recent and the popular tweets that have the word JavaScript in them, and we're going to only try to get the first 100 results. You can also specify the language, so I'm going to restrict the language to English. Okay, so let's wrap up our function by making a GET request against the search/tweets API endpoint. Let me make sure that's correct, and it is. So we're going to pass in our params object, and this is going to take a callback where the first parameter is going to be error, data, and then response. So for now, we're just going to console log the data that we get back to make sure everything is working as expected. So obviously, we're going to have to call this function at the bottom of the file. And after that, let's head over to our terminal and do npm start. We should see all of our data from Twitter, and there it is. All right, so I know for a fact that Twit actually supports the promise API, so we're going to get rid of this ugly callback and switch over to using a promise. So we're just going to do .then and console log the response that we get back from that request. And as you can see, we get it's still working, but it's hard to parse what this information is. So I'm going to narrow that down to response.data, and hopefully that will provide us something more useful to work with. Okay, so yeah, it looks like there are a bunch of tweets here, but still a pretty large and hard to navigate object. So I'm going to narrow that down to response.data.tweets. I hope that's the right one. I'm not sure. Looks like it's not tweets. I believe it's supposed to be statuses instead. So let's try that. So let's make sure that is indeed correct, and it is. So there we go. We're able to now search up the Twitter API and get our tweets back with the word JavaScript in them. So the next step that we want to do is now we want to grab one of these tweets and retweet them. And eventually we're going to write a function that will allow us to also favorite them. So let's get going with that implementation. So what we're going to do is we are going to save this statuses in a variable, and for now we're just going to grab the first one. And then we're going to be defensive about this. So if the status does not exist, so for some reason we didn't get any results, we'll just throw an error. We don't really have to do this, but it's better to be defensive when we're gonna need the ID of this status in order to be able to retweet or favorite it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a new object called params, and I'm gonna store the ID of this status here. Now I'm gonna just cross-reference an existing project to make sure I'm grabbing the right field here. And I'm going to rename status to tweet because it makes more sense. Status is more of a Facebook thing. But we're going to use tweet.id_str. That's the string ID. And let's just confirm that by looking at our console log output. And we're just going to try to log the params object for now, just to make sure we're on the right track here. So let's head over to our terminal and npm start. Status is not defined, so it looks like I did not rename it properly. So right there I forgot to change status to tweet, and now we should see the params object. There it is. We have the ID that we need. Alright, so now that we're able to hit up the Twitter API to get a tweet which meets our search criteria, we are ready to write a function which is going to allow us to retweet things. So just create a new function called retweet, and inside of that function we're going to call our search Twitter function to perform a search, and we're going to grab whatever it returns in a variable called status. Now I'm going to change, I'm going to get rid of this params object inside of search Twitter and just return the tweet that it found. Now, let's just try console logging what we get back from search Twitter, just to make sure that things are still working, nothing crazy has happened in this minor refactoring of code. Alright, so let's try to run this now. Undefined. So looks like we did manage to screw things up. Okay, let's see what's wrong here. Oh yeah, search Twitter actually returns a promise. So we're gonna do dot then after the function call and grab the response that we get back and try logging that. And hopefully this will work. And it does. Alright, so we're back. So let's get rid of the console log statement that we had in there, and we're going to replace that with a return t.post. So we're going to post to an API endpoint here, and I believe the endpoint is statuses/retweet, and then the ID, so /:ID. And then we're going to pass in an object which is going to have a key ID and then the value for the ID of the status that we're trying to retweet here. So I'm going to add a .catch to the end of that promise chain that we just created, so that if something goes wrong while we're trying to retweet, I want to be aware of that. So let's save that and give this a try in our terminal. And looks like our program executed successfully, and we're going to test it out now. So I'm going to log into my Twitter account here, and let's see if our program is working as expected. Let's see. And there we go. I see a tweet that I just retweeted, and it has the word JavaScript in it. Looks like our program is working. Our bot is functional. Awesome. Alright, so one thing that I don't like is that we didn't really get any feedback if when the retweet was successful. So I'm going to add a callback to the post function, and if there's an error inside the post, I'm going to log that. Otherwise, I want to log that we successfully retweeted this thing. retweet success. Yep, that sounds awesome. All right, so now we know for a fact that retweeting works. So let's try if we can get this bot to favorite tweets as well. So I'm just going to copy paste our retweet function, change it to favorite. And the only thing that we should really need to modify here is the endpoint that we're trying to hit. So the endpoint that we want to hit now is favorites/create, and then just fix up the logging a little bit before giving this a go. And obviously change the function that we're calling at the bottom. All right, so let's head over to our terminal once again and run this. There was an, looks like we've already favorited that tweet. All right, so at least our logging is helpful. I'm just gonna try it again. Oh, nope, same error. I think it might actually be trying to favorite the same tweet over and over again. So what I'm going to do to fix this issue is head over to our search Twitter function, and rather than always grabbing the first status, I'm going to grab a random status. So we're going to use the math.random function and multiply that by 100 because we've set the count to be 100 for inside of our parameters, and then just do math.floor, and hopefully that'll fix the issue. No status found. Interesting. Why is that the case? Oh, I know. Okay, so we've set the count to 100, which means that's the maximum number of search results that we want to get. However, there is no guarantee that we will get at least 100 search results. So we might be getting less than that. So I'm going to console log response.data.statuses.length to see if that theory that I just came up with is actually correct. And yeah, it logged 18. So we're only getting 18 statuses. Obviously, multiplying our random number by 100 might not get us a number that's going to be within that range. So we're going to replace 100 with response.data.statuses.length. And now we should be getting a random status out of the search results that we're getting. So let's try to run that one more time, and one more time. There we go. We've successfully favorited that tweet. Awesome. So our bot can retweet and favorite stuff, but the code is quite ugly. You know, we have duplicated the code between retweet and favorite function. So I'm going to create a new function called post tweet, which is going to take care of making that post request to the API endpoint. So we're just going to grab all of that code out of our retweet function and throw that into post tweet. We're going to get rid of the hard-coded URL and replace that with the URL variable. And I'm going to also need access to the ID of the status, but I don't want this function to know about the status itself. So we're just going to make it accept params as an object, and we'll just pass those params along. And let's just fix up our indenting and change our log messages to be more generic, because both retweet and favorite is going to share this. And inside of our retweet function, .then is just going to be a function call, and that function is going to get the status from search Twitter, and it's just going to pass that into the post tweet function. So we're going to pass in the status and also the params object, which is going to have the ID in it. ID underscore str, and I was actually wrong there. The first parameter is supposed to be the URL, which is statuses/retweet/:ID. And now we're going to head to the bottom and change the function that we're calling to retweet to test that our refactor is indeed working, and looks like it is not. It's missing something. Let's see. Yep, I was missing a bracket there. Let's run this again, and unexpected token dot right before the catch. And looks like I have a semicolon there. So I do make a lot of silly mistakes like this. Hopefully everything will work this time around. It says you have already retweeted this status. All right, well, that's good news. I know that's an error, but it confirms that our code is indeed working. Now that the retweet is working, we are going to apply the same logic to the favorite function as well. So we're going to just change that to call post tweet and get rid of everything after the object that we're passing in. Deleting code is a lot of fun. So this is good stuff. We're cutting a lot of code here. And let's just change the function that we're calling at the bottom from retweet to favorite to test this out. And there we go, post success. So it looks like we successfully favorited a tweet. So we can take a refactor one step further. I know we deleted a lot of the duplicate code, but if you look at retweet and favorite, they're both doing similar stuff. And ideally, we want to have all of this contained into a single function. So I'm going to change retweet and call that search and post tweet. This function is going to take in a URL, and it's going to do a search first and then do a post to that URL, which is what both retweet and favorite were trying to do in the first place. So let's fix our indentation here and delete the extra lines of code. And rather than having a string, a hard-coded string, we're going to change that to the URL variable that's getting passed in, and fix up the logging as well. And now we actually don't need the favorite function at all. So I'm just going to comment that out for now. So I'm going to create a new variable called retweet. And this variable is just going to be a call to our search and post tweet function with the API endpoint that we were using to retweet things. And that's all. That's all we need to retweet stuff. And now we can, all right, well, let's first test retweeting to make sure that this works. And there we go, post success. So it works. I'm going to head over to my Twitter account and refresh, and looks like there we go. We retweeted another tweet which had the word JavaScript in it. So yeah, looks like it's working. I'm just gonna undo the retweets and the faves that the bot has done so far, just to make testing a little bit easier going forward. But so far it looks like everything's working. And now guess what? We can completely blow away the favorite function. I'm just going to create a new variable called favorite, and it's just going to call search and post tweet with the endpoint that we were using to favorite stuff, and we can get rid of that favorite function altogether. And that's it. That's beautiful stuff right there. And now let's test it out. There we go. Post successful. And now if I refresh, I should see that I have favorited a new tweet. I don't. Post successful. Oh. Oh yeah, likes. All of the favorites are in the likes section. Derp. For a second I forgot how to Twitter there. But yeah, let's try that one more time. Just as a sanity check, I'm going to refresh the likes section, and there we go. We have a new tweet that we just liked. So yeah, this is awesome. We have a bot that can now retweet and favorite stuff. The next feature that we want is to be able to send out new tweets. So I'm going to create a new function called new tweet. And all this function is going to do is call the existing post tweet function with a URL that is used to create new statuses on Twitter. And then the params is a status with a string, and the string is the content of that tweet. So in this case, the content that I want is testing my awesome bot. I'm going to head over to Chrome and just sort of look at all the tweets that I have, 598, just to make sure that I'm not bluffing. And we're going to call the new tweet function at the bottom. Save, and the moment of truth. Post success. So let's head over to the browser, refresh. We have 599 tweets, and the latest one is testing my awesome bot. So there you go. You can retweet, like, and post new tweets. So now you guys know enough to create your own Twitter bots, and the possibilities are endless from here on. You can have this bot doing stuff after a specific interval. You can have it create new tweets based on some crazy algorithm that you came up with. You can do all sorts of fun stuff. What I plan on doing in the next video is hook up this bot to a Firebase backend. So in that video, we're going to cover an introduction to Firebase, what it is and how it works, and then we're going to hook it up to our bot. So rather than having to manually feed the bot tweets, we're just going to have it grab our tweets from a Firebase backend. And that's it. See you guys in the next video. Until then, have fun, stay happy. Bye bye from the mayhem.